Item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. Item D, approval of minutes of regular meeting on October 6, 2014, as on file in the city clerk's office. Item E1, approval of claim of Main Street Beatrice in the amount of $598.54. Item E2, approval of balance of treasurer's reported claims in the amount of $369,356.07. Item F, approval of Boswell reported claims in the amount of $40,149.71. Item G, approval of change order decrease in the amount of $1,658.90 for a total contract price of $40,153.10 to Charnock Construction Incorporated for the 2014 curb and gutter project. Those are the items on the consent agenda. Does anyone on the council wish to have an item removed for individual discussion? How about anyone in the audience? Okay, seeing none, I entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that all the items listed under the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and/or ratified as presented. Councilman Clayball abstained from item E1.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Kerr, that the items listed on the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and/or ratified as presented. And I assume, yes, Rick, you want to abstain on item E1. That'll be so noted. Is there any discussion on the motion from council members? From audience members? Can you vote, please? And that motion carries, there we go, we got everybody there, 8-0. And again, as noted, Councilman Clayball abstained on item E1. Next, to introduce resolution number 5688, entering into an agreement with New World Systems Corporation for software maintenance support services.
Mayor, I move that resolution number 5688 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Party, that resolution number 5688 be passed and adopted. Chief Lang, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. For about approximately the last 12 years, we've used a company called New World Systems. They supply the software for the computer system. Basically, it runs CAD, computer-aided dispatch. It runs all of the record system. It also runs all of the software. It's a software that runs the computers in the cars. It makes it all connect and interface. It was a large purchase back 12 years ago. Those of you that were on the council might remember, but it was about $313,000 at the time, so it was a big ticket item. We've long since paid it. We bought it on a lease purchase type deal, and we've long since paid that off. However, there's a maintenance cost associated with these any software packages, and unfortunately, you're kind of on the hook to them at times for what that fee is going to be. Generally, it's written into the contract for X number of years, which we did, but then after going forward out of that, your costs are a little more difficult to control. This provides us with free updates. It provides maintenance. It provides us 24-hour access to helplines and so forth. However, I felt like the number was too big, and so I told them that, and told them that if the number was going to be that big, then I was going to look elsewhere for a new software package, possibly that was a little more economical. Funny how that works, and so they came back with a proposal to us, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. This new proposal is about $18,000 less a year going forward, and so we were pleased about that. The catch, and the reason I'm standing in front of you today, is they'd like, in order to get those terms, we got to lock in for 3 years. We have to agree to a contract of 3 years. They give me terms for 7, but they give us an out clause after 3 years. So I'm here today asking for your blessing to enter into this agreement, for us to enter into the agreement, but I think it's a good deal for the city. We have no intentions at this point now of changing software. This works very well for us. It's a big-time system. We're at the smaller end of the users of that. They service agencies that put out 100 cars a shift. We put out a couple less than that, and so, but yeah, it still does all the things that we need it to do. So I am recommending that we do it. It is at a reduced cost. It does lock those costs in for the next 7 years, but we have an out after 3. That's kind of in summation where it's at.
Okay, Rick?
Was there any opt-out charge then after the 3 years? Didn't seem to be any charge. If you
There's no
want-
charge to opt out, just an opt-out, right? And we had that in there actually before. In the old contract, we had an no-cost opt-out. You know, they know, we know that opting out of this kind of a deal is so hard. Your staff will want to wring your neck because the changeover to a new system is very difficult, and B, that it's not without cost. I mean, you have data conversions and things like that. So everybody in the game knows that you're not going to do this willy-nilly. But they also knew that there are other players that were possibly cheaper than them, so that's why we were able to get it down.
Bob?
And your updates and things are in a timely manner, and you guys are just happy with when they do a major upgrade?
Right. Yeah, you know, and you're asking that question because you know that upgrades are their own animal. And
Yeah.
what we do, our practice has been that we stay a couple updates back because we're not big enough to test all the bugs. So we leave that to the Philadelphias and those places like that have huge IT sections, and they can work with them to. So we're a couple updates. We could move faster if we wanted to. We just choose to come at this pace, and it's worked well.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay, Ted?
7 years, and it's rolling after 3?
I'm sorry, what's
It's a
that?
7-year contract, but it's rolling after 3? I missed that part.
Okay.
So I thought when I read
Locked
it,
in-
I thought it was 7 years, and then you said it was 3, and so help me.
Yeah, sure. We're locked in for the first 3 years. We can't opt out for 3 years.
Okay,
Then after 3, we can opt out any year
Okay.
after that.
Okay.
But they've guaranteed me a rate for 7 years.
all right. I read it, and then you confused me, so I'm good.
I confuse lots of people, so.
Yeah.
Additional discussion?
Not a huge accomplishment when you confuse me, so.
How about the audience, anyone? Back to the council, any further discussion? You vote on the resolution, please. Motion carries 8-0. Resolution number 5688 has been passed and approved. Next, I'll introduce an ordinance vacating Lot 3 of Christensen's Second Edition.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 14-025. The title therefore be approved. The rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Catlin and seconded by Langdale that said ordinance be given number 14-025. The title thereof be approved. The rules be suspended and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That motion carries 8-0. Ordinance number 14-025 by number the first time. Ordinance number 14-025 by number the second time. And ordinance number 14-025 by number the third and final time tonight.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 14-025 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Langdale, that ordinance number 14-025 be passed and approved. Mr. Butcher, would you like to explain?
Yes, this is a three-part process here for the plating of what will be ultimately Berkey's 5th edition. City of Beatrice was approached by Gail Berkey, who was looking to relieve herself, her and Gary Berkey, of some property which contained a large stormwater pond just north of approximately 13th and Dorsey Street. Ms. Berkey had negotiated with adjacent landowners to divide that pond and the area there around. And so what we've done is we've asked that those properties be platted. And one of the adjacent landowners, if you look on page 23 of your packet, you'll see the plat map itself. Toby Bissinger and Tammy Jansen, their property currently is platted under Christensen's edition. And what we proposed to make this one cohesive lot, which is Lot 2 of what you'll do is Berkey's 5th, we're going to vacate Lot 3 of Christensen's, and then it will be added into Lot 2 of Berkey's on the next step of our process. So, again, this is the first step on that.
Okay. Discussion, questions?
It doesn't impact the street that's platted? Am I on the other end?
What street are you talking about there?
13th?
13th will remain the same. If you were to see that Lot 1, I believe it is Danny and Vicky Philippi. Their property exits out on 13th Street, but there will be no change or difference to that improvement.
And what would be 11th?
What would be 11th, and I guess this is probably getting a little ahead of ourselves, but if we want to answer all the questions now and then just go through them, we can, it's fine. 11th Street, as you see there in the Christensen's edition, is currently platted north of Dorsey. When we plat Berkey's 5th, we've requested, and Gail has permitted us to extend that 11th Street. It will not be developed, and that will be discussed in the subdivision improvement agreement, but it gives us the opportunity and prepares us that if Gail or a developer that she works with afterwards chooses to develop further north of this, we're starting to create our public access point that we're going to need that's already built into Dorsey. So we're continuing that on. Also, if Toby Bissinger would plan to develop part of his lot that he's got now, that would be Lot 2. With frontage on 11th Street, we could go in there and build out 11th Street and then subdivide off that from Lot 2. So, but we requested that in there, and we can discuss when we get the subdivision improvement agreement what's going to specifically go on there.
So does that make it essentially his lot would, Lot 2 would just be that, is that going to consume what's now his, part of his lot as well? I mean, does
Yes,
that make-
it will be, the totality will be Lot 2 as you see it there with the vacated Lot 3. That's all one lot now. It's kind of an L shape.
And what's the reason behind that?
If we didn't do it that way, there would be no specific public access to that back lot because this road is not built out 11th Street, and we're required to have that built in there. And
What
we-
happens to our easement that's between, that runs just north of his current lot now? Isn't that what I'm seeing on the map? Is it easement there?
Yes, it remains.
Those remain.
Okay.
They're included on the new plat.
Okay.
Any further discussion from the council? Anybody in the audience? Back to the council. Okay, your vote on the passage of the ordinance. Motion carries 8-0. Ordinance number 14-025, or 024 has been, no, 025 has been passed and approved. Next, I'll introduce an ordinance approving the plat of Berkey's 5th edition.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 14-026. The title therefore be approved. The rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that said ordinance be given number 14-026. The title there be approved. The rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. And a motion to suspend the rules is non-debatable. I'd ask for your vote, please. That motion carries 8-0. Ordinance number 14-026 by number the first time, ordinance number 14-026 by number the second time, and ordinance number 14-026 by number the third final time tonight.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 14-026 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that ordinance number 14-026 be passed and approved. Mr. Butcher.
This is just approval of the plat as it was submitted. I'll draw your attention to some of the, there's one item that you don't have on your current map in 23, though, that is included on the final map. As you can see, crossing lots 1 and 2 is that pond, that retention pond. We've requested, and it is on the final plat, which was printed off after your packet was made. We have a stormwater drainage easement that runs basically off of 13th Street, cuts through the middle of the pond, and then towards the center of the pond in Lot 2 directs itself north. And that's to retain any stormwater drainage rights that we would require as we continue to develop, especially when we get into further developing 13th Street or maybe Dorsey. And so that was requested, and it is on the final plat. Other than that, it's pretty much a very basic plat. Lot 1 will ultimately be owned by Danny and Vicky Philippi. Lot 2 will be owned by Mr. Bissinger and Ms. Jansen, as is noted there. And those are essentially the 2 that are created here.
Any discussion?
So lot 2, that's become this odd shape, that faces 11th Street where the stormwater runoff is, if I'm reading it correctly, that creates an unbuildable lot that would face what would be 11th Street, correct? You couldn't build a structure.
No. Again, apologies, this was made prior to the final one being printed, the Mylar. The way that's going to enter, the way this drainage enters, it enters off of 13th Street, approximately where you see that 25-foot front yard setback note there on 13th. It crosses through the center of the pond,
Right.
and then right in the middle of it, the middle of that pond, it cuts straight north, if I'm correct. I believe, James, he's nodding his head. You got that?
Here's a copy of the Mylar.
You can pass that.
So it does create a buildable lot that would
Yeah,
face what would
absolutely.
be 11th?
Councilman, as you can see, and I can pass this down, this entire area is buildable on frontage on 11th,
Okay.
because the drainage goes straight north at this point. It's just hard to tell from this one where that is.
All right.
So we could in the future cut off that back portion of Lot 2 and develop it out with frontage on 11th Street.
Well, that's going to be the question that I'm going to take tomorrow morning. That's why I was trying to get as much information on that.
Okay, further council discussion? Audience, anyone? Council, one last time? Okay, your vote on passage. Motion carries 8-0. Ordinance number 14-02 6 has been passed and approved. Next, I'll introduce an ordinance approving the subdivision improvement agreement for Berkey's 5th edition.
Mayor, I move the said ordinance be given numbers 14-027, the title therefore be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Langdale, that said ordinance be given number 14-027, the title thereof be approved, and the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is non-debatable. Your vote, please. That motion carries 8-0. Ordinance number 14-027 by number the first time, 14-027 by number the second time, and ordinance number 14-027 by number the third and final time tonight.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 14-027 be passed and approved.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Party, that ordinance number 14-027 be passed and approved. Highlights of the subdivision agreement. Mr. Butcher.
This subdivision improvement agreement was in editization, I guess you could call it, throughout the weekend, but it was ultimately finished and signed yesterday with all the parties involved. So that's all the landowners that are on the plat. The only public improvement that is required within the plat is 11th Street. And as we note in the subdivision improvement agreement, just like the current plat at 11th Street along Dorsey, we do not plan to build this out in any way. What we've noted in the subdivision agreement is that should the necessity create itself by developing property that we've defined as anything north of this subdivision, right here, or this addition. So it's essentially all the property owned by Gail and Gary Berkey that is north of this, and we've identified it by legal definition. Should that be built out and require public access along 11th Street, then in that case, we will build it out. And what we've basically gotten consideration of that is that Gail and Gary, as well as Toby Bissinger and Tammy Jansen, because they're the ones with frontage now on 11th Street, have agreed that they won't challenge any paving assessment that we may do in the future. And thus, when we come in there, they're essentially approving that. And so that's how we've planned it.
But then they'd be majority landowners, they would essentially force Paquette and Jones to go along with whatever they wanted.
That is correct. And depending on the length of 11th Street, obviously, because if we do develop this, that
It has
does,
to be a foot, I'm looking at the map, it's longer now.
it is, you're correct. And the other thing is that if you extend this another 200 feet into this, say we do have a large-scale development, maybe 6 or 7 lots are going to be developed off of 11th Street, due to the fact that Ms. Berkey owns that property. If we extend 200 feet, then she has complete control over it because she'll control the entire segment. But through this agreement also, she's not going to challenge us if we come in there and say, okay, we need it now. And so that was the only consideration given. Other than that, everything else just notes that if need be. But other than that, there's no other requirements for any water servicing, storm sewers, anything like that in here. So
Does that carry on if, say, Gail and Gary were to sell this? Would this follow along with it so the next
it would, this will
owners-
be filed with the land on the Register of Deeds office, and it notes that the developer, which is technically Gail, the Philippis and Tammy and Toby, their successors, assigns, designees, so on and so forth. So it will run with the land. We ultimately also note that it may ultimately be an actual developer that purchases the property, and so we also include information in there in regards to securities and stuff. Should they come in and decide, hey, we're gonna build it out, we're gonna build it rather than city build it, and so we have some securities and stuff in there built in, so.
Further discussion, gentlemen? How about out in the audience? Back to the council. And your vote, please. Motion carries 8-0. Ordinance number 14-027 has been passed and approved. Next, to introduce an ordinance approving fees and charges for use of the wastewater treatment system.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 14-028. The title therefore be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Claybaugh, that said ordinance be given number 14-028. The title thereof be approved. The rules be suspended and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. Motion to suspend the rules is non-debatable. Your vote, please. That motion carries 8-0. Ordinance number 14-028 by number the first time. Ordinance number 14-028 by number the second time. And ordinance number 14-028 by number the third and final time tonight.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 14-028 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Kerr, that ordinance number 14-028 be passed and approved. And several meetings ago, the council passed a wastewater ordinance minus the charges for delivery of septic tank waste to the WPC plant. This ordinance addresses that now. Tobias, would you like to fill everyone in on the details, please?
Sure. If you turn on your packet on page 30, you'll see that's where it starts with the red line copy, so you can note the changes that were in there. Some of the changes are very minor. We changed, before we referred to gallons per month, we changed it to gallons per day. The math comes out to be the same. The biggest change comes on page 37 in your packet, and this is where the Board of Public Works met and reviewed the fee that we were looking to charge for septic waste haulers. And when we looked around at other communities, you can see on page 29 of your packet, we came up with an average 800-gallon tank would cost about $38.90. We used the 800-gallon tank because that's what Mr. Lobby indicated that he typically has, and so we thought that was a good measuring stick, if you will. When we looked at that information, Mr. Lobby came to the Board of Public Works meeting and spoke with the board, and we had an interaction with him. The board came back and essentially came up with a price of $35 for every 1,000 gallons that are delivered to the plant. And so that was the number then that you see in your packet on page 37. You'll see it says $35 for up to 1,000 gallons, and then for every additional gallons after that's an initial, it's $1,000 for every $35 for every 1,000 gallons. So that was what we've incorporated. The reason we brought the whole ordinance back to you is because we didn't want to have one section sitting out there someplace and then try to remember 2 ordinances that deal with rates. We put them all together in one again, just because it's easier for accounting and bookkeeping if we have it all in one place. So,
Discussion by the council. How about out in the audience, anyone? Okay, back to the council. Any discussion? Okay, your vote on passage, please. Motion carries 8-0. Ordinance number 14-028 has been passed and approved. Next, we'll have the public forum. Purpose of the public forum is for the presentation of an item by a member of the public to the council for consideration at a later date. There will be no discussion or action taken by the council at this time. Does anyone out in the audience like to address the council by way of the public forum? Steve, come on up.
Steve Torch, Southwest 75th Road. I've been on the river all my life, and I've had people approach me for over a year about getting canoes and kayaks to the river. I don't know what happened to the ramp, but if you do a search on the net for a canoe launch, I think it'd be the better way to go. These people have also offered to volunteer to make steps down to the river just out of railroad ties. These folks are getting hurt, and it's gonna keep happening. And I believe a goal is to make our river accessible to more people. Now, we have a dock down the Beatrice Boat and Camper Club. It's private, but we let these people get out at that dock so they'll be safe. I would just like to see something like this put on the agenda. That's all I got.
Okay. And actually, Steve, if you want to sit back there in the audience there next to Mr. Burrows, he could probably tell you what he's been talking to me about this morning. We still have a boat ramp on the budget, although I've been skeptical that it's ever going to get built, but he assures me that it still will be. But he did come up with a couple of ideas, right along the way you're thinking there this morning. If you want to just run by there and talk to James, I think he might
Okay,
have some information for you.
thanks.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Below the bridge?
Be in Chautauqua Park in the same spot we had the ramp planned. Somebody else in the audience like to address the council?
Jeremy Segerman. I'm the president of Beatrice Professional Firefighters Association. Just real quick tonight, wanted to let you guys know of kind of a neat event we have coming up. Over the last couple of years, the International Association of Firefighters has been encouraging their locals to get involved with a organization called Operation Warm. And what they're all about is providing brand new coats to underprivileged kids during the wintertime. So the guys decided to take up this cause, and basically what we've done is purchase 30 brand new coats. They're 100% American-made coats for these kids. And we're going to be handing them out on November 7th. It's a Friday at 4 in the afternoon out at the Head Start offices at Southeast Community College. And we just wanted to extend an invitation to all of you to come out and see what we got going on, see the kids. Everybody we've talked to said that when they do these, it's a really neat thing to see. So with that being said, we just wanted to extend that invitation to you. If you have any questions, let me know. Like I said, it'll be Friday, November 7th at 4 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else in the audience like to address the council by way of public forum? Okay, moving on. Next up, we have the Engage Quarterly Report, and with us this evening is Engage Executive Director Glennis McClure.
Good evening, everyone. I think this is my second official report, and I think you were handed a copy of it. I hope this is in good order for you to kind of follow along. Again, I have sort of laid out the objectives that Engage has had since we started our organization a couple years ago, and we worked with Smart Solutions on those objectives. So I've tried to address, I guess, the activities and the things that we're doing that relate to those objectives. And in a few cases, you'll see that there's some duplications. It's just a matter of where do they fit. And somehow they might have been on one page and then they kind of fit in another area. So there's a few items that you'll see that are duplicated. I'm not going to go through the list entirely. I'm just going to hit a few high points and then, of course, address any questions that you have. And I guess I'll start off to ask, does anybody have any questions to begin with? We'll come back to that. So. All right. Our first objective is to really work on organizational structure, make it a county-wide, community-wide focus. And so that kind of involves, what is our outreach? Who all do we work with and we're involved with? And I guess I was at one of the recent meetings here where we talked about the marketing plan, working with the school, the chamber, the city, Beatrice Main Street. And that's one of those items at the bottom of the list here that has been, I think, a really good thing. It was brought to us by the school as an idea, and I've been involved with Engage for a couple years since the start, and marketing is really, really key to a lot of what we do. It's a lot about marketing, the fact that we have potential. We have good workforce. We have some buildings that could be utilized. We have a good community, good county, and so I think that overall that this idea of working together, we've had lots of meetings with the Action Council, which involves several of those folks, but also with this marketing situation, the joint marketing plan. And our board had really good discussion about it last week, I should say. I was really glad that we had the FES folks come in and talk to us about the effort that we're looking at, investing in. And they said they approved it. They are, I think, very excited about it after they heard the presentation, and they talked about how I think you guys had mentioned too at your council meeting, sometimes these plans are done and they're shelved and we don't do a lot with them, and they talked about the fact that, hey, these are folks that are marketing experts. They'll come up with a message that we can all utilize and in some way, shape, or form, and that we, as we invest, we're committing to that. So I just want to bring that word of news to you that our board, is looking at being a good part of that. So I'm just going to kind of go back here, working with the Department of Economic Development. Lynn Cohout is our Southeast Nebraska representative, and we've met on several occasions. Lynn is more than willing to come down and help when we have companies that have questions about state incentives or whatever it may be. Also very helpful, and you'll see later in the report that, my September was pretty busy with working on this recertification for the city of Beatrice, a recertification for economic development. And Lynn actually was assigned that. Someone left the department. Lynn's our Southeast rep, but she also was assigned to work on the recertification process for the state. And so we had met just prior to that, and she helped kind of walk through what that was going to be about. And it was sent in on time. It was sent in on September 26th. October 1st was the deadline, and we got it in. And I want to thank Tobias. So we had numerous conversations about that, and he helped review the final product, and that was sent off. And Lynn tells me that it's still in review. And one of the keys to that, too, is that we have a good website. I mean, they're going to be taking a look at the city's website. I've been very impressed with the city's website. But also the Engage website really needed a lot of work. So through the summer with my interns in marketing, and I've got an assistant now on staff, it's just a continuous process to make sure, for one, that we keep things kind of new and fresh on there, but there was just a lot of updating that needs to be done. So we're really hopeful that when they look at the materials that we present, that our certification will come back in good shape. I have been told that they'll probably come back. They don't usually approve those the first time. So they'll come back with questions, and hopefully they're nothing really terribly challenging, and we'll get through it. But I did bring a copy of that, and you're welcome to see it at any time. I do want to make note, I think it's 8 pages total, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we had 27 links or attachments throughout the report. So there's a lot of supplemental information that goes into something like that. And it was really good for me. It was, I was like, oh my, just being new in this position, how are we going to get through this? And again, Tobias was a great help, but it was really good to gather information. And to see kind of where we've been and where we are, hopefully going forward with economic development. And I want to say, too, that it was definitely a very important, a very key thing that we were part of Smart Solutions, that they helped us with our initial plan. Without that, I think it would have been really troublesome getting through this. Because we had that plan, we have those objectives, we had some action items. I think that's really important. So again, I hope that it goes through, but and definitely as following the outline, we needed to do that. It was also really interesting to pull some numbers. They wanted some quantifiable numbers in the report, and you're welcome, like I say, to see this, and I'll be glad to send a copy, but they asked for like new jobs that have been created since, basically over the last 4 or 5 years, from 2010 to 2014 is the time frame that we address those questions. And there were 3 new manufacturing businesses located in the community and county. 77 new jobs were created from those new manufacturing businesses. We also had to count the number of new small businesses created in the county, and we're like, well, how in the world are we going to do that? We haven't really been in place. We don't have those markers in place. But what we did is we went back through what the chamber had done for ribbon cuttings. Now, not all ribbon cuttings are new businesses. Sometimes it's somebody buying an existing business, or it's like they've done a remodel and they have a grand opening kind of thing. But we counted 49 new businesses were created in the county within that period of time. Also business expansions. They ask about business expansions, and we counted 9 businesses that expanded. So as I kind of looked through these numbers again today, overall we had 518 new jobs contributed to that work over the last 4 or 5 years. Okay, and even with 5 businesses closing, and we know, of course, Husqvarna was a big hit. I included the fact that Storecraft has closed now, and that wasn't a part of the report, several weeks ago. But just looking at those numbers, we've had a net of over 150 new jobs in the last 5 years, and so it is pretty significant to look at what small businesses are doing. Again, as I tell folks what Engage is, it's comprehensive. It's not just about the big businesses. It's helping the small businesses grow and develop and hopefully sustain. So anyway, just to kind of flip through here, you'll see that, again, part of what I've done ongoing is try to get out and meet with businesses, understand what their situation is, understand if there's anything that we can do to help as Engage. Like, let's say they're looking at an expansion, what kind of resources might help them with that. Hopefully paying attention to whether, hopefully they're doing okay and they're not going to leave us. I mean, that's pretty key to be outreaching and follow all of that. That we have had some inquiries. I would say, I was thinking about this today, I would say at least on a weekly basis, if I haven't heard about somebody that's looking at a new business, a small business, new business startup, or I've gotten some kind of inquiry, whether we're showing a building to someone potential. These are potential a lot of times. We had, I think, a really decent inquiry come in from DED that I had to respond to. We've had, another large project that was responded to about, it's been at least 6 to 8 weeks ago already. And, we've provided information, and we're sort of sitting tight to see what's happening with that. It was an interesting one, kind of difficult, I'd say, but I was encouraged to get through it, and we have I say we have great resource folks, and DED has been wonderful to work with. Nebraska Public Power, their economic development folks, and the Black Hills economic development folks have been great to work with. So, and I've needed them, and they've helped me through some of these things. And so hopefully, something will be a big win at some point in time. Again, keeping up with properties that we have listed, buildings and sites. I think our board talked about this last week, going ahead and making a little bit more of an effort to try to market online. There's online, to do more with the 74 acres that we have out in the industrial park that needs to be developed. So we'll be putting some resources towards that and trying to get that on marketing. So I think also I want to mention the Storecraft closing, and hopefully trying to be a resource for those folks that are displaced. But more importantly, one of the biggest issues I think with economic development right now is having workforce available. So all of a sudden, when you have folks like that are dislocated, we've got a lot of skills, we've got a lot of people in this community that hopefully can find a good place, good opportunities yet. But we plan to send out some letters to site selectors all across the nation. Primarily, it's best to focus on Midwest, but I talked to DED today, but also Cheryl Brandenburg with Black Hills has said we can supply the site selector list. So I hope that this week I can get a letter out, a mass mailing out to say, hey, we've got people here that have skills and are loyal, good employees. And so if we could find a company that's interested in coming in, we've got some buildings available, so that's what it's about. So
Has Engaged reached out to the other manufacturers here in town, asking them if they could possibly absorb some of those folks?
Well, we're really, I guess, very fortunate. We have the Department of Labor folks here too, so they were immediately, that's kind of their thing, and they did a job fair. So yes, that word went out. I had a list of manufacturers. We did a Manufacturing Day event, October 3rd. I had that list and sent a note out and said, yeah, hey, just so you know that this is happening, and then there are going to be some good people available, so for sure, yeah. Hopefully, most folks have heard about that and can find places for them. So as you have looked through the report, are there questions that you have? I could go on for a long, long time. It's a very busy position.
We'll give
Yes, Ted.
a chance here.
I actually have one comment and 3 questions, all of them really brief. First of all, the net job gain report. I mean, Dennis and I have had this conversation for 15-plus years. That was always my biggest pet peeve, and I know that that's not exactly accurate yet, but whether that came from your board as a directive or if that's something that you brought, where whoever is involved with that, kudos for that.
That was just part of our recertification process, and so it made us go back and look at numbers and try to figure out how to get those numbers. So you're right, it's not a perfect figure, because we took that, that surprised me, 49 new small businesses, and we're talking really small businesses. But if you kind of try to quantify those jobs relating to that, but then there would be probably some of those small businesses that didn't make it.
Right.
We also kind of looked at that list. We didn't count them, of course, as new if they didn't make it.
Right.
So, okay?
Well, but it's a starting point, and that was always, it's always a pet peeve of mine. I mean, as I've sat here over the years and listened to this, we only ever heard, this is what we've done, and this is what we've attached ourselves to, because a lot of your predecessors had a tendency to just simply attach themselves to all that was good and ignore all that was bad, and I appreciate you attaching yourself to both of those things. So anyway, kudos to your organization or to you, whoever did that. Your strategic objectives on your page, on the first page, Glennis, there's 2 things on here. They attended the Nebraska Rural Initiatives Forum in Nebraska City. What is that exactly?
That has been a relatively new effort from the University of Nebraska, primarily coming out of the College of Agriculture initially, but it is now university-wide, so all campuses are embracing that, and it is really trying to be more sort of economically friendly, provide more resources to communities like ours that are rural-based.
Okay.
So it's paying attention to what's going on with our rural economy.
Oh.
And so, there's projects that communities have done, and they were there to share. We did do some touring around of what Nebraska City's done, and we went down into Auburn and, listened to some of the things that they have done. But there was one thing, they provided actually some myths, they have projects going on, and what they're trying to do is study really what's going on. And so there was, this is part of a research study where they came up with some myths that are kind of interesting. We would say that location is really important as far as our community, but a community's location is key to its survival. That's a myth, okay? We can still be successful, if we're in remote Nebraska, but it all really depends on what the community's doing. But I really wanted to share this with you, that this is Mylan Wall, who's worked with a lot of communities and leadership. He said a community's success is a function of what leaders say and do. So that was kind of towards the end of the day.
Yeah.
Really, yep.
Okay, met the new DD, acting director.
Yes.
She is that a state gig? What is that? And who is
DD,
she?
that's Nebraska Department of
But I mean,
Economic
her
Development.
function, did she come from another state agency or?
Well, yeah, she was Department of Administrative Services, and she's
Okay.
acting. She was appointed by the governor when Catherine Lang left.
Okay.
Here, just within this year, she left. Dacia is actually Dr. Cruz's daughter. She's got some connections to Beatrice.
Oh,
So,
that was my assumption.
But I really enjoyed meeting her, and she had planned to come down to speak at our Manufacturing Day event, and she got called away, and so we had the deputy director here for that day. so,
Okay.
Which is good.
All right, so my last question, strategic objective number 5 in your reports, the last thing, you've hired an executive assistant, that's just your assistant?
Right.
So, and she has background, or she's learning under your tutelage?
She's a Beatrice native,
Okay.
has already received a degree from the university in marketing, business marketing. And I had interns this summer,
Right.
which was wonderful to have them. But when Zach went back to college, and I still had some intern position capability there. Well, she had applied, but she'd already been out of school since December, and so that she wasn't eligible for that. But I'm like, she's got she fits.
Okay.
Business marketing, and she's been wonderful to have. And I just knew that I needed someone pretty quickly as we were going through the recertification work in September.
Yeah.
Right now, too, she's helping. Nebraska Public Power has put out a community guide. And I think the last one that was done, they re-up those about every 5 years. And so it's a pretty big report. They're putting it in a different format, and I know the city, you filled out some of the things already, and we're still gathering information from around the community, but Sheena's helping tremendously with that. So that'll be an important thing, too, for us
Well,
to have.
not to make her uncomfortable, but we'd love to meet her, bring
Okay,
her.
sure. Or
If
come on
that's-
down to the office and meet her, too, sometime. She's
You know
usually
what,
there.
next week, I'm gonna pop in next week, I got some extra time next week.
Okay.
I'm gonna pop in.
Okay,
Thank you, that's all I had.
yeah.
Glennis, how did the starting a business workshop go?
We had, I think I noted we had,
Was that September 16th?
yes. I think we had 10 attend that, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, it's not a lot. There were several of us were resource folks that attended the Chamber, Main Street, we were there. But what I've been trying to do, at least on a monthly basis, is have some kind of workshop, some kind of activity that small businesses can come in, and I guess I'm trying to find out who is out there that has the potential interest in starting or growing a business. And so on Wednesday, we have a speaker from the SBA coming down to talk about SBA financing. And, we've gotten a few more people that are potential small business folks or entrepreneurs that'll be attending that. And so that kind of helps me sort of know, I just want them to know that we are here as a resource. And it may not be that they need SBA financing, but at least maybe that can lead to talk and help in other ways. So I'm trying, and next month in November, we have a Grow Nebraska marketing workshop planned. So I'm just trying to at least keep something going for the small businesses.
Yeah.
So
How's ECAP progressing?
ECAP is progressing, and we will be launching that. It's a discovery tool, a survey. We plan to launch that early January. And so there'll be a link, and we want folks to fill out that survey. And we do have a core team of folks that have been helping us try to develop that discovery tool. It's getting close to being done, and about to the point to share the next draft of it. And the one thing that I need to do, as you know, I have to pay attention to communities outside of Beatrice, and so I still need to make some more connections on that with the other communities in the county. But you'll see that there'll be a page at least of questions that are focused on Beatrice projects, things that, I think Tobias has looked at it, the school's looked at it already. Well, Action Council, that's been a good thing for Action Council. It was taken to them, Laura took that over there, and so we can get feedback from folks as we're developing the tool, and then hopefully that'll be good information for us. So there's a segment of that discovery tool that is focused on what does it mean to be an entrepreneurial community? So they have sort of these standard questions that the university folks developed, and then they said along with that you can have sort of customize it for your community, and that's what we've done. We've got a Beatrice page, and we've got a few questions. I've worked with some folks in Wymore, but Thayer County has a lot of little towns, and I'm kind of going off of what they've done, so we can kind of get a feel for the rest of the county what some of the issues and projects may be. So, yeah. So that's in progress. Okay?
Additional questions, comments for Glennis from anyone? Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks for your
Glennis.
time. Okay.
Okay, next up, the city administrator's monthly report. Tobias, do you have anything you want to highlight?
Again, I'll answer any questions you have, otherwise I'm just going to point out a few highlights. One, out Prairie Playground, you'll see the Public Properties Department installing a shade over the Little Tykes area. That was donated to the city by Deanne Caspers Moon and the group that she has out fundraising. And so they were able to raise some funds for that. You'll also see along the trail through Chautauqua Park, we currently have 2 of the energy little stations along the trail. Public Properties will be installing 2 more of those. They've got money through Lowell's and through Norris Public Power to install the next 2. So you'll see those going in. Beatrice Plus program, in September of 2013, we billed just under $250. In September of 2014, we billed $2,600. So you can tell with the change in the program, what that has done to the Beatrice Plus program. So that has made a significant change there. Also note that one of the things that the Board of Public Works had us start doing when we go out and camera a sewer line, we are capable with a new camera of looking back up into service lines and seeing if they are plugged or blocked, or they start seeing a substantial number of roots growing. We're able then to figure out which property it goes to, and we send letters back to those property owners, just letting them know, here's what we saw. You might want to go check out with a private plumber that you may have a problem.
Couldn't have done that for me back in July when mine backed up into my basement?
We were just a little late getting there.
Yeah, thank you.
But they sent out 4 letters in September, so if you're a homeowner and you get one, a lot of times we include a picture so you can see what we saw. Again, just kind of an FYI, letting owners know, hopefully to be able to avoid some potential problems. Update you on a couple of goals. The sewer line project for this year is done. It was just completed this last week, so we have lined the sewer lines that we had budgeted for, so that is completed. We've got new equipment for the skateboard park that is on order and should be delivered by Halloween. And so we'll see those start being installed here shortly. And then finally, demolition of houses. You'll note on page 86, we took down 1 house in August. We have another house down in October, just last week, I believe. And we have another one that's currently in the process. It's just a matter of getting notification out, and we'll work on that one. So any other questions that I can answer for you?
Yes, there are. Okay, next up, we do need to go into executive session to discuss union negotiations. Just for the benefit of the news media, there will be no action taken after that executive session. So we could have the necessary motions, please.
Mayor, I move that the mayor and city council meet in closed session at 7:55 PM to discuss union negotiations.
Second.
Okay, moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that the mayor and city council meet in closed session at 7:55 PM to discuss union negotiations. And your vote on the motion, please.